Dear viewers, welcome Mrs. Josefa Sacko. She is Commissioner for Rural Economy and Agriculture at the African Union Commission. Thank you, Madam, for accepting our invitation.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome and feel at home.
Okay.
Okay, so the very first question I'm going to ask you is, what is the current state of food security in Africa?
The current state of food security in Africa is quite wondering, because it's getting worse and worse instead of it to improve. As we know that Africa has 60% of uncultivated and arable land. We have the hydric, resources, water resources, and we have is a region that has the youngest population to really revamp this important sector. But unfortunately, due to some other issue drivers that we know, conflicts, climate change, and the pest and disease, lack of investment on the sector, and recently with these two big shocks, the COVID-19 pandemic and the war in Russia and Ukraine exacerbated the situation and exposed our vulnerability. So we are not on track to meet food security on the continent.
So do you have the feeling that Africans eat well? Are they well fed?
They are not, because when you look at the statistics, let me share the statistics. We have about approximately 285 million people undernourished. That is 20% of our population. We have 30% of our children, stunted children. So this is really worried. And with the COVID-19 pandemic, it increased again the number of people unnourished people to 57 million people. So this is really a very, very urgent situation that we, leaders of this sector, we need to take measures. It is an emergency issue, and we also have the highest rate of people that cannot afford the 3 square meal and a nutritious diet, which is about 85 of our population. They cannot. Let me give you the right estimate, because I don't want to just go around like this, because at times statistics. So we have I say that we have 57% of our population that they don't have affordable nutritious diet. So looking at this, we see that we need to really be more bold in our policies on this sector. That is why we have the Cadet Malabo Declaration. The Cadet Malabo Declaration mostly is going to expire next year. And we also we are talking about evidence-based. We have the biannual review report that informs us that we are not on track. Because this edition that we presented during the Assembly of Head of State, our summit in February, we presented the report of the fourth edition. No country is on track. No country, because the benchmark is very high, it's 7.8 over 10. But the good news is that we have 26 countries that are really making progress. They are above 5.
26
African countries, they are making progress on that. Mm-hmm. They are making progress on that. So that is why this instrument that we have, CADEP, when we are going to shape the next 10 years action plan, we should always do mutual accountability, peer-to-peer mutual accountability. And it's working very well, because we are really having a good how do you call it, a good collaboration with the REX and this at the national level. We are all involved, the REX, the African Union, how the NEPAD and the member state, to carry, to monitor and evaluate the progress, to track the progress of our member states in terms of this continental agenda, which is a Cadet Malabo Declaration. So now we are trying to shape the next declaration, the 10 years action plan, which we suppose it will come on in January 2025 in Kampala. So we have the third edition of Kampala Declaration.
Okay, I do guess you are going to take into account the case of children, because during the Pan-African food debate, we all listened to your presentation, which was quite interesting, and I think you stressed on the issues that children are victims of malnutrition, and the figures were quite worrisome. I don't know, do we have a reason to be skeptical about Africa's future as far as children are concerned?
I don't think so. I think we need to correct, to close that gap, to correct, because this that's what I'm saying, that's the advantage we have to have the biannual review report. At least we have data, we have good statistics. We work with FAO. They are with us, you know, the FAO is really the first organization on food security, exactly, food and nutrition security. This is FAO. They have the skills, so they have been supporting us so much, so that those reports that we publish is aligned also, because we should not forget, we also have to, you know, we also have to track progress in terms of the SDGs. You know, the global agenda, the Agenda 2030 of the UN. So we work together in synergy, so that what we are putting as data is also the data that FAO can also is using for their own report, so that we are all aligned. So I believe that this fourth edition is an alert for us. If we want to build a future, a better future for the next generation, we need to address this issue of food and nutritious food and access to food, because it's very important. So I believe that now we are conscious, because the lesson learned from COVID-19 and Russia and the Ukraine crisis, it's, you know, a clarion for us to call that we should stop it, and we should go towards affordable foods, nutritive foods, and our sovereignty.
Does that explain the reason you came for the Pan-African food debate? And we saw that there were less than 10 countries that were invited. Do you think it will have an impact with less than 10 countries, when we know that Africa is more than 50 countries?
I think it will have an impact, because this is an inaugural approach. And when we are talking about the first initial, this is an initiative that Algeria has taken. Okay? So if it was the 10th edition and only 8 countries, we say that we are not going nowhere. But when you look at the countries and the institutions that they came, it's very important. We had a very, 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 very fruitful and insightful debate during all those panels that we organized on even with the citation, you know. So that inspired me so much. And I know that since we are in this process also of shaping the new 10 years action plan, the decisions from this important Pan-African debate we should also use, because we had people from all the region. We had participants from Northern Africa, they were here, West Africa, they were there, Central Africa was there, even Southern Africa and Eastern Africa. Their institutions were there, farmers were there, all these stakeholders were there. So this type of debate we cannot undermine. We need to really, you know, buy in with this initiative and go, because to me, this is the first time I'm seeing a debate talking about Pan-African debate on food. I've never attended something with this team. So this is the team that we need to really, you know, streamline along all the countries. And like I was saying, that the example of Mozambique. Mozambique has an initiative, Growing Blue. They started it with just at the region level, you know, some few countries. Today is a big event. Every 2 years, it's for the blue economy. Every 2 years, they have their own forum. Even this year, they are going to have it in September. So this one of Mozambique. Today, Mozambique is asking African Union to buy in and to make it as an African African Union initiative for platform for us every 2 years, leverage the progress we are making on the blue economy, mostly on fishery, the ocean maintenance, you see. So all these initiatives are very good. So this one, with all these statistics we saw, and Algeria coming up with a because African Union is a Pan-Africanist association. It was built on this Pan-Africanism spirit. So this project, Pan-Africanism is a spirit, but it has to be a project, a program. This project we should really encourage, because all the think tanks are there, former ministers were there with their experience, everybody translated, and this declaration is very clear. It's not, is a contribution that we take it, because this process of shaping the new post-Malabo, we are going region by region. So when they will come even in the northern region, Algeria should submit it, when they're having the debate with the experts that are working on that this thing. So all the decisions that were taken here, we made focus on children. Malnutrition. Exactly. So we should make sure that they knew, because the other one, the Malabo Declaration, we did not make no focus on nutrition. So we have to make a lot of focus on nutrition. We have to make a focus on water, because it's all intertwined, all of these thematics. So I think it's very important.
Thank you, Madam. This brings me to the next question. So I would like to know, what correlation do you make between water, food, and agriculture?
For us, it is important. Without water, we cannot. We cannot have agriculture. We cannot have food. Water is life, and I'm lucky to be the commissioner of all these thematics. So we have our strategies, to really interlink all these, all these sectors. And go. Water, we're speeding up, because we came out with a water investment plan. We want to cover the gap of water and have a good governance of water management. So we are really worried about the problem of water, and we are working on this initiative, because
concretely, when you say you are working on this initiative, there are countries like Niger or Chad, or those countries surrounding the Sahel region, they are really in lack of water. What is the strategies that the strategy that the African Union is bringing up to let people stay in their villages, work, cultivate, and at least have a food sufficiency system?
One of the first strategy in the Sahel, it is the Great Green Wall, to plant trees, because desertification, that is what is causing the droughts. So if we implement concretely, we have that one, and we implemented, and we saw that some Sahel areas, benefited, and it was a very good lesson. So those are the type of, because those are climatic issues. So those are the type of thing. So when we are talking about adaptation, we need to see how can we adapt to this situation of drought, because it's drought. I went to Chad and I saw the river Lake Chad shrinking. I know this issue, but we have the Water Vision 2025 that we did not implement, because we cannot. The member states, because the head of states approve. It's the member state has to implement. If you don't follow the global agenda, you're just doing the things on your way. You don't invest. We are not a financing institution. So we have the ADB, we have the AFRIK Bank. Let them be, because when we do these policies, we want to align with their own national policies. And then from there, we have the basis to have a bankable project, initiative, and together with the African Union, we can mobilize resources. But when member states don't go through that pathway, it is difficult for us to come. That's why we have now this water investment with a target, a timeline that we want by 2030 to cover 30% by 2030 access to water and access to electricity. About 600 million people, they don't have access to light, whereas we have all the facility to do even renewable energy. So those are the type of things that this organization is trying to pursue, because they are all members of the alignment of the policies and the implementation of the policies. This is what we are concerned.
We can't talk food agriculture without talking about the important work that women are doing. They are not at the forefront. I know they are behind the scenes, but they are doing a lot. So what is the AU doing to support women?
The AU, in terms of the AU in whole, we have our strategy on equality and empowering women. We have this strategy and we have a directorate for women, directorate of women, women inequality, empowerment, all this gender directorate. But we at the African Union, we are talking about the thematic of agriculture. In our African Union, we know that women play a key role, you know, on food production. 80% of what we eat, it's women. So how to empower them? Then I commend the President Mama Zuma, Dr. Zuma, we call her Mama Zuma, when she was the president of the African Union Commission, she brought an initiative to remove the drudgery in the farm and bring mechanization through, and this initiative is called to confine the hand wool, the baka, to confine the hand wool in the museum. And under my mandate, I was the first person to pick that one to give women access to mechanization, because those drudgery that they carry and the burden of going to fetch water and this. So we said, okay, so if you go to Bobo Dioulasso in Burkina Faso, we launched this initiative of confining the hand wool into the museum, and we gave them stillers, where we had support from the EU, we had support from FAO, GIZ, a lot of organizations where we were mobilizing. Every 15th of October, which is International Rural Women Day, we celebrate in a thematic with UN Women. So we are doing a lot. The department did not have a strategy on women in agriculture. Now we have this 10 years action plan, did not have something on gender. Now we have put as a new this thing. That's why I say we have the 13 technical working group, you know, to come out with proper policy on all this. So this one and the youth, it will come on the post-Malabo declaration.
That's very encouraging, madam. And thank you very much for accepting to talk. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and see you next time for another special edition of AFRIK magazine. Africa!